And take one. Not really. Welcome everyone. I hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to break down my version of John Miles' music, which I've performed with 5 other musicians at a concert last year. I'm also going to explain to you the music theory used. In case you haven't seen the concert version yet, you can check that out here. And if you plan on learning my very complex version with your band or maybe even orchestra, my condolences. Feel free to print or download my arrangement from MuseScore. The link is in the video description. So, without further ado, let's dive right into analysis. Music by John Miles is undoubtedly one of the greatest pieces of modern music since it combines classical music, jazz, pop and rock. And with that said, I composed 2 extra minutes in addition to the original, which led to a 180-page long arrangement for an whole orchestra. And since we were only 6 musicians playing that piece at that concert, instead of a whole orchestra, which would otherwise be required, we had to replace a lot of instruments with our instruments. So this version here is more difficult than the original, especially when it comes to the piano, where I had to replace probably more than 3/4 of the full original orchestra. And my music colleagues, of course, were very happy about that fact. They shouted, "Yes, more difficult, more pressure." Yeah, but this is just something you have to deal with when you're a musician. Good, as you can see, I have my score already opened. We're at the key of E major at 168 beats per minute, and it is a 4/4 measure, so it goes like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And it is mezzo piano, so rather calm but slightly upbuilding ballad-like opening. B over D sharp, A over C sharp, E over B, an F sharp over B flat, slight arpeggio, an A add 2 over B, and an B add 2. Until there. That chord here, that's an A add 2 over B. I'm calling that one a key chord because that A add 2 over B is often used by Miles throughout the whole piece. What Miles is doing here, he's playing an A major chord and he's adding the second tone of the A major scale. Thus we get an A add 2. And another B is being played by the left hand. As a result, an A add 2 over B. That might be a little bit confusing for non-Middle European musicians because in Germany we're actually calling the BH. So that one is our H. And that one here, the non-Middle European B flat, is our B. So it is a bit different here. But actually there's a very interesting reason why we Germans are doing that. Or at least I'm sure there is if someone should ever find out why. That A add 2 over B here is not a very nice chord to end a progression with, because I'm sure you can hear that this chord creates a lot of friction. So what we still need here is a resolution chord, a chord which is going to bring our A add 2 over B back home again. And such a resolution chord is in many cases the 5th degree of a scale, also known as the 5th chord of a key. And since we're in the key of E major, that's the root chord, the 5th chord would be the B major chord, that one here. So 1st degree root chord E major, 2nd degree F sharp minor, 3rd degree G sharp minor, 4th degree an A major, or in our case the A add 2 over B, which is just treated alike, that's also the subdominant, and next here comes the B major chord, the 5th degree, the dominant chord, and the one which is going to bring our A add 2 over B back home again. And this is exactly what Miles is doing here. He's playing our 4-5-1 chord progression. 4, 5, 1, back home again. In fact, I wasn't too happy with the normal B major chord that Miles played in the original. This is why I chose to play a B add 4, that one here. I'm playing a B major chord and I'm adding the 4th of the B major scale because it's called B add 4 and the 4th is an E. That one is slightly better than the normal B major here because it sounds a bit warmer and dreamier and fuller, and it has slightly more expression because you got an extra note there, we got an extra E here. When I wrote these notes 1 year ago, I chose to notate a B add 2, so that one would also be very, very good, but there I would have to add the 2nd tone of the B major scale, which is C sharp, but taste changes, so by now I'm preferring an B add 4 over an B add 2. But Miles' choice of a normal B major is perfectly fine nonetheless. When playing this B add 4 here, it is of crucial importance to put in clear emphasis on a normal B major. Otherwise, if I emphasize the 4th here, the E, it would sound like the progression is still going on. But we want to make sure that the progression ends here. So the principle is playing the B major chord and only slightly mention the 4th, the E here. So not like this, but like this. So it's not so easy to do. Good, let's resume from here. And music of the past, and the violin joins. To live without my music would be impossible to do. 'Cause in this world of troubles, my music pulls me through. Until there. So that was the first passage of music. There is nothing to worry about. It is more like a, let's call it, boat trip over a calm ocean. The violin player, by the way, was Chemi Hutra, a great musician and very good violinist. The more challenging part here clearly is the voice. I am singing in a call and response principle with my co-singer Victoria Bach. She's a great singer, and multiple lines each, sometimes with little vibrato endings at each line. For example here. My music pulls me through. So I'm sure you're hearing that I'm using a little waves there. That's the vibrato, and I'm lowering the volume. So I'm using a decrescendo. This is just a very beautiful stylistic vocal device used in many, many songs that creates different levels. It sounds like the voice is resolving into nothingness, and that keeps it fresh and interesting for the listeners. So the very challenging part here clearly are the vocals, because the lyrics are very high and they need to be sung very, very clearly and precisely. So that was the first passage of music. Let's head right over to the next one. And if we take a look at these pages, here the contrast comes already. If we take a look at the note picture, one can already sense blood. Staccato notes, there's a volume increase to 40, 174 beats per minute, so slightly faster. Now a minor key in E and a 7/8 measure, and the note picture shows it is about to get real. A 7/8 measure is counted like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And due to the mathematical principle of the additions law, one can turn the summons in any order one likes by gaining an equivalent result. That means I can also count like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Both counting styles work, 7/8 stays the same. In fact, here would even recommend you to count like this: 1 and 2 and 3 about 4, 1 and 2 and 3 about 4. You're noticing I'm using an about here, which is a two-syllable word. So it just has to do with the nature of the 7/8. If I count it in German, I will count like this: 1 und 2 und 3 oder 4, 1 und 2 und 3 oder 4. I'm using an oder here, which is the German translation for the English or, and another two-syllable word. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what word you use, as long as it has two syllables when it comes to counting a 7/8 measure with most efficiency. Good, let's play the nasty 7/8 part. Very nasty. And this is also, by the way, what I did during the concert performance. I was counting silently in my head. Now I'm doing it in a loud manner for demonstration purposes, of course. 1 and 2 and 3 about 4. 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 Until there. When playing these chords and these runs, what Miles is doing in the original, he's playing an E minor and he's going down to the C major over D. And back to the E minor. Instead of playing a normal C major, I chose to play a C major 7. That one consists of the tones C, E, G, B. Very beautiful chord. And that one is slightly better here again because it has slightly more expression, because again, we got an extra note. We got an extra B here. And a major 7 chord is always a great chord family to finish a 3-chord minor progression with. So when you're dealing with a 3-chord progression, a progression that consists of 3 chords and one that starts on a minor key, a major 7 is always a great finish. That one. This is also one of my favorite chord progressions. That one is a little bit more difficult. It's coming later on again. An E minor 7, a D BB5. It's called D BB5 because we're playing a D major chord. That consists of D, F sharp, and A, but we're lowering the 5th. We're going 2 half steps down because it's called BB5, 2 half steps down from the 5th. So we're lowering the A, we're going 2 B's down to the G. so it's that chord. And then a C major 7. So we got E minor 7, D BB5, C major 7. A very, very beautiful chord progression there. And this is why I chose to play a C major 7. If we take a look at the saxophone and trumpet, saxophone player was Moritz Bartel, trumpet player Dennis Wirth, both great musicians. They're playing a steady motive, like in the original, loud and precise, E, F sharp, G, F sharp, E, E, F sharp, G, as you can see here in bar 51. The violin has a break, like the vocals, so I do not need to sing in that passage here, but I need to play the piano. Victoria did sing, so she was able to go and take a nap. But since I also need to play piano while singing, I didn't have any break. I never had a break at all. So endurance was asked for me. Next, the violin is about to join again with a solo that is being played by an electric guitar in the original. The drums are underlining the steadiness of the 7/8 measure. Thomas Scholz was the drum player, great drum player and very good musician. He's playing some quarter beats at the hi-hat with quarter pauses each. And if we take a look at the piano, a very stormy ocean is ahead. 7/8 measure stays where the speed of 174 beats per minute, 30-second notes are incoming, and if we put that into perspective, at a speed of 174 beats per minute, 30-second notes are incredibly fast. And an E minor blues scale has to be played over 4 octaves starting on a G4. When I wrote these notes 1.5 years ago, that was the only thing I didn't think of, that I might run out of keys up here when I'm starting on a G4. This is where I'm transposing that one octave. I'm going 1 octave down. I'm starting on a G3. So out of a musical perspective, it stays the same. But when I'm starting on a G3, I have a little bit more playground on the upper right side of the piano. So this is why I'm starting on a G3 now. So brutal technical task by the piano, but we're perfectly fine as long as we keep the steadiness of the 7/8 and neither lose speed nor volume when it comes to playing this very nasty 7/8 runs here. Good, let's start. 1 and 2 and 3, about 4, 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 until there. You know what's the most difficult aspect of that passage? It's that microphone stamp. And now we're about to reach a sweet spot moment. I'm calling that one the 68.5 problem, because here we have to deal with a moment of crucial importance and of huge danger, because here the problem is neither in bar 68 nor in bar 69. Like so often in life, the problem lies between the lines, like here between the bars. And the reason why this is so dangerous is because there is a time signature change from 7/8 to 4/4 and a very dangerous decrease of speed from 174 beats per minute to 156 BPM. And the reason why this is so dangerous is that, very fast notes aside, that after the last passage, one starts to get used to the very fast 7/8 steadiness. The switch to the very different time measure to 156 beats per minute and 4/4 breaks in so abruptly at that moment, like a hot knife through butter. That could throw all the musicians off for quite some time. And then you do not need to be a brilliantly trained musician in the audience to notice that something is off, if not all the musicians are coming together instantly. But of course, when playing with others, and that's a little disadvantage, one of the very few disadvantages when it comes to playing together, when you're dealing with a tempo change. Because everyone needs to come together instantly, and 156 beats per minute is a very abstract number. So when playing with others at an orchestra, for example, or a collaboration with other musicians, it's impossible that everyone instantly comes together. You definitely have a free room of plus minus 5%, but you need to make sure that you're coming together within maximum of 2 seconds. Otherwise, it's noticeable. Then it's not a short or a little inaccuracy anymore, but a major mistake. But at the concert, it was played completely flawlessly, so I was very relieved at that moment, because that was a very decisive moment here in that piece. Later on, we are heading over soon to a moment that wasn't played perfectly anymore. That's the hardest moment of all of music, but again, we're heading to that over soon. That passage here is called the arpeggio passage. Here we have to play a lot of E minor arpeggios and A minor arpeggios, as well as an E major scale multiple times up and down very, very fast. So here it is important to neither lose focus nor concentration. And since there's going on so much at the piano, looking at the notes is, frankly speaking, not the best option here. So I need to focus on the fingers here. Good, let's play. Valentines. And then combine D minor. And the violin. E major scale. Until here. So here it is very important to not focus too much on these arpeggios, otherwise you're getting a very hard hand. So it is very important to keep relaxed and only fly gently over the keys like this. Otherwise mistakes are going to happen. So you're immediately getting punished if you're doing it differently. So here it is very important to keep a relaxed wrist and just fly over the keys, up and down. And so on. Of course, I know all 180 pages by heart. So not only my part, but also every single other instrument and my vocals, of course. I know everything about this piece, every single symbol and detail. I memorized everything. This is just a process happening automatically. So if someone asked me 1.5 years ago, what's the 7th note of bar 111, I could have instantly told him or her that, but by now the piece is going away more and more, so I need to store the brain with other things. But nonetheless, I still know extremely much about that piece. But what I want to say is that even when memorizing everything at a moment of extreme pressure, like at a concert, some clues are always good. And this is exactly where we meet a huge advantage of when it comes to playing together. So when playing with others, you can use proper clues. For example, like here. I knew at bar 69 I have to play the E minor and A minor arpeggios as well as the E major scale exactly 8 times before the violin joins. In addition to that, 9 more times until the trumpet and saxophone play their combined E minor. And from then on counting 16 bars before I need to sing the next lyrics together with my co-singer Victoria. Summarized, these are 33 bars until the voice comes back. The disadvantage here is I must not get confused of the many counting works at the tempo, the time measure, the rhythm, keeping my music colleagues in line, and of course keeping track of how many bars I already played and how many bars I still need to play, because again, looking at the notes is not the best option here, since there's going on so much at the piano. But how repeating a whole army of tasks at the same time with most efficiency, piece by piece. Now the voice comes back in bar 102 and takes the leading role again, like voices often do, so I need to sing my next lyrics together with my co-singer Victoria. Music was my first love, and it will be my last. Music of the future, music of the past, and music of the past, and music of the past. Yeah, 2 eases to pretty sharp, D6 minus 5, C sharp minus 7 at 4, A mat 2 to C, and a combined E minor. That's gonna blow your ears out. So let's rewind. There is a lot to talk about. First of all, of course, here everything is upbuilding with these huge crescendos right to the perfect introduction for the next passage with these very, very rich E minor chord played by all of the instruments at 40 fortissimo, full power, full speed. It sounds like the world is about to end. But here we have to deal with some chords here. This is a very beautiful jazz chord progression. Here it starts on an E-2, then we're going to the E sus2 over D sharp, then a D6 minus 5, and then a very interesting chord is C sharp minor 7 at 4, and then an A mat 2 over C. That chord here, that C sharp minor 7 at 4, is a very, very beautiful chord. It's never used in pop music due to its complexity, almost never used. It's more like used in jazz. It's a typical jazz chord there. And that one here has the task of a bridge chord. So that C sharp minor 7 at 4 serves as a bridge chord. A bridge chord in music has the task to connect two different musical elements, like here, two chords. So that C sharp minor 7 at 4 has the task to combine or to connect the D6 minus 5 with the A mat 2 over C with that one. So we need a chord which is connecting that one. Now, why is a C sharp minor 7 at 4 working? That would be a topic for another video, because that dives into harmony theory very, very deeply. So for this video, it's enough to know that that one works, because we have to focus on music here, but a very interesting chord, C sharp minor 7 at 4. It all works according to mathematical principles. When creating that one, we have to play these notes: a C sharp, an E, a G sharp, a B, and an F sharp. So first of all, a C sharp minor. It's called C sharp minor 7. So we need to include the 7th of the C sharp minor scale, which is a B. And since it's also an add 4, because it's a C sharp minor 7 at 4, we also need to include the 4th of the C sharp minor scale, which is an F sharp. That chord here. C sharp minor 7 at 4. Very, very beautiful chord here. This is how it sounds. Normal A minor, and then this very powerful E minor chord. If we're going north at the note picture and at the sheet music, there is a perfect example for a call and response principle. Here it looks like the saxophone is playing something and the trumpet answers immediately here. So it looks like the trumpet is taking the word of the saxophone, but in a very fluent and gentle manner. So the saxophone is playing, and the trumpet plays. So it works perfectly together, call and response. But the most interesting aspect here is clearly the voice. Because everything, if we take a look at the vocal, everything that starts at the last quarter of bar 120 right to the first half of bar 128, everything here needs to be sung within one breath. So this is one line. And if you put it into perspective, this is 6.5 bars for the word past alone here. So 6.5 bars, 4 beats each. 6.5 times 4 is 26 beats, 26 quarter notes, plus 1.25 bars for these words and music of these are 5 beats, 5 quarter notes. So 5 quarter notes plus 26 quarter notes are 31 quarter notes, 31 beats that need to be sung within one breath. If you put it into perspective again, it feels like diving in the water for your life. And when you're out of the water again, you have to deal with the next huge tsunami waves coming right at you at this great masterpiece here. So this is a very good test for great singers, definitely. So these are the most interesting aspects here of that passage. Good. Again, here, perfect introduction. Everything is upbuilding to that goosebumps moment at the concert. This E minor chord here, played by all instruments at 40 fortissimo, full power, full speed. Even the drums are playing at full power at 40 fortissimo, a hi-hat hit. And yeah, the next one is a very, very classical passage. I played a lot with different dynamics, so I recommend you to keep track of the different dynamics I used and to listen carefully here. So a very classical passage here, very, very beautiful here. So let's start from here. It might be a very good idea to lower your devices or headphones, otherwise, again, your ears are going to be blown out with that very, very loud E minor chord. Ready when you are. 3, 2, 1, go. Rubber motive by the drums. Repetition. Major 9 at master piano, everything's upbuilding to a D at 4, crescendo and full power, G at 11. there in the end. So again, very, very interesting passage. I used many different dynamics. So first of all, we had forte fortissimo, and the violin played. Again, very loud. Repetition, violin. And then we had, and then very silently, C major 9. Upling. B7. So, very, very beautiful here with a lot of interesting chords. C major 9 here. That one, it consists of the tones C, E, G, B, and D. So also very jazzy chord. E minor 7 here. And yeah, the drums are playing a very catchy motive the whole time. Here, for example, here we can see it very, very clearly. And a strong hit right to the hi-hat. And here I didn't notate that one. Right after I played that D at 4, at the concert I did a very silent D1 and D2 octave. At the D1 and at the D2, very, very silently. For everyone to gather again and as a breathe out, as a last breathe out move there. And the hi-hat did, the drums did their hi-hat hit, so it worked perfectly. I didn't notate that one. The last chord here is in D at 4. Very beautiful chord. That's the best choice here. It will also work to play a normal D major, or a D sus2, or a D sus4. Would also work, or a D at 2 would work. A D bb5 would also work. A very beautiful chord, but I wanted to keep that one for later on. D bb5, one of my favorite chord families, but that one is a little bit too soft there because it's the end of the passage. I had to use something with more expression. This is why D at 4 was perfect there. Or a 4-note chord would also work, of course. So there are a lot of possibilities to end that very passage there. So here in that passage, the piano had more of the task of accompanying. The violin was supporting the saxophone and the trumpet. And vocals here had a break. Very interesting also is that G at 11 chord. That one. In the original, Miles played a C over G. So that one is very, very good. I chose to play a classical G at 11 where I played a G chord with the C. That's in another inversion. So very beautiful. Even better than that, what I found recently would be a C sus2 as a 4-note chord with a G. That would be definitely perfect. So that would have been the best choice there. But nonetheless, you can play a G at 11. G at 11 consists of the tones G, B, D, and C. Or that sus over the G chord. Or an A minor over a G. Or a C over a G. So there are again multiple possibilities. But here in at 11 was perfect because they're a very bright chord family. And now here comes probably the most famous part of music. Not only probably, but it's safe to say that that one is the most famous part of all of music. It's used in many different TV shows, a part which is not only known to musicians like most of these parts, but a part also known to people without special musical training. Almost everyone could immediately recognize within hearing that passage for 1 or 2 seconds that it has to be music by John Miles. So this is how famous it is. The drums are playing 8 quarter beats at the hi-hat here for every instrument to wake up again. We're at a speed of 134 beats per minute. So, but take an ear for yourself. until there. So again, intense piano technical task, a very, very difficult and very dynamic passage. If we take a look at the piano, or no, let's do the other instruments first because they're a bit easier to grasp here. The trumpet, saxophone, and violin are playing some chords together, very similar to the original there. So they're playing some chords, they're supporting each other. If we take a look at the vocals, they were done already because vocals have a break. So I do not need to sing here. Victoria doesn't need to sing. So nap time, definitely. And if we take a look at the drums, this was a drum part to shine. So Thomas Scholz's time to shine, because I think you were able to notice it. That's an extreme offbeat here. So I wrote this passage in an extreme offbeat. It was the whole time. Sometimes with drum beats, like here, and drum runs. So an intense task here, but I wanted it to be that offbeat. I noted that in a very complex manner because I knew Thomas Scholz would be drumming, and I was sure he would be able to pull that off, and he did pull it off. So definitely great work here. Now piano, just the same intense piano technical task. So very, very stormy ocean here, because these fast scale runs, we had to, with the left hand, we had to jump many, many times right into the area of the right hand many times. And if we take a look at the right hand, this time we had to play an E minor blues scale again, like at the second passage. Maybe you can remember that one where I said instead of starting on a G4, we're starting on a G3. This time we had to play another E minor blues scale, but that time on an A6 up here, up and down in a very fast manner. I could do this all day and go and take a drink. Up and down, very, very fast. And next we are about to reach the most difficult moment of all of music. The one I already mentioned before, where I said that later on there is a moment that wasn't played perfectly anymore. That is this very moment. So the reason why this is so dangerous again is because there instantly all the instruments need to reduce the speed from 134 beats per minute to 80 beats per minute. This is a loss of 54 beats per minute. So another moment where a mistake would not only be an inaccuracy or a deviation, but a major mistake. But at the concert, we were only slightly out of tempo, so not a major mistake, only a very short inaccuracy. But again, it's impossible when playing with others when you're dealing with a tempo change. This is one of the very, very few disadvantages when it comes to playing together, that everyone needs to hit the same amount of speed, like already mentioned. And this was a very short inaccuracy. No one probably noticed, or only the musicians in the audience, and of course we musicians playing did notice it. So it wasn't played perfectly anymore, but still we played it. They're absolutely fantastic. So that was just a slight inaccuracy. Sometimes there were different others, very, very slight inaccuracies, but yeah, that just happened. It's just impossible not to do it when you're playing at such an extremely high level, such a masterpiece like this version here. And this is where the most classical passage begins. This is what I'm calling the arpeggio passage number 2. So that one is a very classical one. There are huge arpeggios incoming for the right hand in a very, very fast manner, and huge jumps for the left hand. Again, the left hand needs to sometimes jump right into the area of the right one. So there is extremely much going on at the piano. I'm not calling that one a stormy ocean. I'm calling that one a hurricane. And this resembles a very, very much Chopin and Liszt when it comes to the style, with these fast arpeggios for the right hand and so on. But you're gonna hear that for yourself, definitely. The chords are like in the beginning. We start on an E major chord, an F sharp minor 7, an B over D sharp, an A over C sharp, an E over B, an F sharp over B flat, then the friction chord, an A at 2 over B, and an B at 4. But this time played extremely difficult with these arpeggios and huge jumps for the left hand. Music was my first love, and you'll be my last. Music of the future. And this was the ending of music, but of course not the ending of the ending yet, because I composed 2 extra minutes, as you know. I didn't want to end it like Miles in the original, because he used a lot of power here, as we were able to hear. Definitely a very, very good choice, but I wanted to use a more calm approach there. So I wanted to follow the principle of the hyperbole. We started in a very calm manner like this. Music was my first love, and it will be my last. Music of the future and music of the past. Like this. And I wanted to end in a calm manner, because like in hyperbole, it also resembles a little bit a life, a human life or an animal life, where you start in a calm manner and then it's upbuilding, upbuilding, upbuilding. Once you reach the climax, the adulthood, it's a lot of action going on and a lot of things, and the older you get, the calmer it normally gets. But that's also very, very fine, so it's just a matter of perspective, and these last 2 minutes I composed there, they resemble probably the moment of retiring in life. But this is my favorite part of this piece here, and also retiring can be the most beautiful part of the whole life, so it just depends on what you're doing. A very nice chord to begin with is an add chord. As you know, I used a lot of add 4 chords by now, and of course also add 2s. And here an add 2 is a very good choice. sus2 would also work here. E sus2, E F sharp B, or an E add 2, E F sharp, G sharp, and B. So both work, but here I chose to play an E add 2 there. And little steps up and down. It's like a little rainfall motive, let's call it. So let's play from here. Very interesting chords. And a saxophone solo. Until there. So that's a little playfulness of mine. I changed things up a bit. I wanted to provide more surprises to keep it, of course, again, fresh and interesting for everyone and for the listeners. Beautiful chords here for the piano. We started on that E add 2. And then that one is a very beautiful chord. This E sus2 over D sharp, and an E sus2 over C sharp minor 7, and then an A major 9. This is a very, very interesting chord here, C major 13 minus 11. And I wanted to dig that right into the heads of the audiences. So this is why I played that chord right over the whole bar as in crescendo. Right after Moritz Bartel's very beautiful saxophone solo was over, so Moritz did beautifully here. That was a very beautiful saxophone solo. I think you were able to notice that he played an imitation of the voice, so just without the text, but he played basically the same as the voices sung before. Music was my first love, and it will be my last. He played it with the saxophone without the text, of course, as an imitation, and very, very beautiful here. And he stopped at piano pianissimo. Very, very beautiful. Again, the principle was to let the music resolve into nothingness, as well as this saxophone solo here. And right when he was finished with that saxophone solo, I took the word of him again. Not in a harsh manner, but in a very gentle manner, because I played that C major 13 minus 11. And it was very fluent, and it was just working perfectly there. He stopped on an E, that one is an E. And after that E, I stepped in with that C major 13 minus 11. So this is a very fluent transition there, and it was, yeah, again, working perfectly here. He stopped at piano pianissimo, and I started at piano pianissimo with that C major 13 minus 11, and then up building to mezzo forte, right over that whole bar here. C major 13 minus 11, again, mathematical principle here, mathematical problem, let's call it. C major 13 consists of the tones C, E, G, B, D, F sharp, and A. So That's a C major 13 minus 11. There is a huge discussion in music whether the 11th is an F sharp or a normal F. Some musicians say it's an F, others say it's an F sharp. I'm one of the musicians, and I'm in favor of those musicians saying it's an F sharp, because when playing an F sharp at a C major 13 minus 11, it just sounds better. When playing that, it sounds better, according to my opinion. When playing a normal F, I think it sounds a little bit off, so I'm preferring an F sharp here. But what speaks in favor of a normal F is that the F sharp is not part of a C major scale. So we're playing in C major 13 minus 11, and normally black keys when playing at C are not allowed here. So out of a theoretical perspective, it's an F. Out of a perspective of beauty, it's definitely an F sharp. But here it doesn't matter whether it's an F or an F sharp, because it's an C major 13 minus 11. So the 11th is left out anyway, because it's minus 11. So we're playing a C major 13 minus 11. We're leaving the 11th out. So it doesn't matter. And another inversion is that chord. So very, very beautiful to listen to. So very complex one. Never used in pop music. Definitely never only used in jazz or classical music, but mostly in jazz, of course. The next passage is that very famous one. I think you can remember that one. Also very famous, the second most famous passage of all of music. And here, since I used the playfulness of mine again, I changed things up again. I wanted to change everything. Again, create new surprises, and followed multiple different lines there. I played it a little bit different, but take an ear again for yourself. Messy piano. Drums are underlining. C major 9, very beautiful. Dia2. Everyone expects me to go to the A major instead. I'm going Dia2 and C major 9. So that's modification of mine there. Everyone expects me to go to the A major instead. I'm going down to the C major 9. There a DBB5 would again work, but D2 or D4, they both will also work, of course. Beautiful chords here, C major 9, E minor 7, DBB5. Next, the vocals join. So I need to sing my next lyrics together with my co-singer Victoria again. And also here I used a huge modification also for the vocals. I changed everything as much as possible. Normally the voice goes at E major. Music was my first love, and it will be my last. And here we start on an E minor 7, so it's not possible to sing music was my first love. It's dissonant, so it sounds off. This is why I had to assimilate also with the voice. This is why here the voice goes like this. Very beautiful. Oh, music was my first love, and you will be my last. Music was my first love, and you will be my last. So very, very high, and need to be sung very, very clearly and precisely. Victoria sang here 6 notes for the word last alone, so she sang phenomenally here. Last. 6 notes for that word alone. And here very beautiful, right in my part, right over the word first, we have that DBB5 chord. So very interesting chord here. That one I already mentioned a couple of times now. And right over that chord, there is this little thrill you can see up here when you take a look at the voice. I notated that one as a 32nd note. I didn't notate that one as a thrill symbol, but as a 32nd note. Both are possible. And right here, I sang First Love. So very beautiful. It works perfectly here. First love, first love. You can practice that, and yes, very, very high, and that little thrill there, so quite difficult to manage if you want to do it in a very correct manner. And chords, very interesting here, next to her part, next my part again. Chords are very interesting. That D BB5, C major 9, and then as a perfect introduction to that E minor 7 here, we have a D over E, then an E minor 7, and then that D add 4, C major 7. So beautiful chords, and then repetition again. So huge modification there. The last part was for myself, so the last part was for the boss, for me to bring everything home, so big pulse for me. This is just a piano technical task here, so singing was over, and the drums were underlining this first half of the last passage of the ending of the ending of the ending of the ending of music. Again, Thomas was playing these quarter beats at the hi-hat, and yeah, I'm going away from the notes now because the notes are here over within 4 pages at the concert. I lengthened that. So I played 2 or 3 times as much because I really wanted to squeeze every single drop of water out of the stone as much as possible, to not make the mistake of dragging everyone out of that magical atmosphere there too soon. Because in many cases, if you watch a movie, even at good movies, or if you read a book or a good book, many of them make the mistake they're ending too soon. So they're dragging the reader or the one who's watching or here, the concert viewer, that they're dragging them out too soon. So I didn't want to make that mistake, and this is why I lengthened it. And yeah, here it goes, the last passage. I'm going away from the notes now. I'm playing it slower and more. Good. Enjoy. Good, and that was the ending of music. So at the last page, I went back to the notes. Right here, arpeggio. And here it is very important to stay with your hands on the piano. Not make the mistake of taking your hands off too soon, because really drag the moment. Really drag it out and not make the mistake of ending it too soon. Keeping that magical atmosphere here. And in the very end, even here at that last chord, that's a C major 7 here. Or more like probably even a C major 9, because here there is a D. I'm adding that one, and here we have a C major 9 constellation, and that last tone there is a G. So I'm even there providing 2 more surprises, because everyone expects that this chord is the ending here, that C major 7, but I'm still playing 2 extra notes there, D and G, but at piano pianissimo. And with that piano pianissimo, I used every single dynamics that's possible in music, from forte fortissimo to piano pianissimo, as loud as possible to as silent as possible. So hyperbole principle was definitely a great idea there. And yeah, at the concert I didn't play that 74 beats per minute. I played it far slower. I used decrescendo also, so it went calmer and calmer and calmer, and ritardando slower and slower and slower. So really following that hyperbole there. So definitely goosebumps moment at the concert. And in fact, I almost cried, but only almost. Wow, what an amazing ending for an amazing piece of music. With that said, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video just as much as I did making it. In case you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. I'm always happy to answer the many messages I receive on my social media. And if you want to go any further, you can get a full music lesson, of course, because as you may know, while studying law and playing concerts and making videos, I'm also teaching music. I'm teaching groups of people in music theory, and I'm giving private vocal and piano lessons. So if you want to have that, you're definitely going to get that, but there's lots of more information about that on my social media and on my website. What was the goal with this video? The goal was to show you the power and importance of arranging and composing music. If I have to sum it up in one sentence, it is, do not make it boring. And that can be done by using everything both harmony theory and music theory have to offer. Create little surprises, keep it as interesting as possible. And this great masterpiece here by John Miles is an ideal example of that very approach. So, I hope you were able to take along some advice, tips, tricks and knowledge which you can implement in your own play or maybe even music exploration. Thanks again for watching. There are a lot of more videos also of this style coming on this channel, so maybe we're gonna see each other in the next one. I would be looking forward to that. And until then, I hope you have an amazing day.